sitting in our cars waiting for the filming of the beginning of the Japanese Grand Prix, and Ron Howard is walking around. I'm on the front row because Andretti was able to qualify on pole for that race. And Ron Howard's walking around directing people, getting ready for the next take. And he saw me sitting in my car, and I'd already been introduced to him. And so he walks over, he leans down, and he says, "Your car is my favorite car on the grid. It's really cool. And I think you're going to win this race." Well, I've had the ex-Andretti Lotus 77 now since 2004. Of course, when I bought the car, I was just interested in having a Lotus with Andretti history and having fun driving it and being the steward of, you know, that kind of a legendary car for some brief period of time. So, had no idea that I would be invited to have it featured in movies. But with Ron Howard's rush, they wanted to use my car because Andretti had won the Japanese Grand Prix that year in the Lotus 77. And they contacted a number of other car owners, primarily in Europe, to use their cars for authenticity for the movie. And they asked all of the owners if they'd be willing to drive the cars in the movie. So again, they had some facsimile cars for the crash scenes and that type of thing. But a lot of the racing action, the standing starts, the passing maneuvers, the pit stops, were the actual F1 cars driven by the owner drivers. And we did standing starts at sets that were configured to look like 3 different racing circuits. And we would do 3 or 4 takes of each one. And they would have, I think I was told, something like 35 cameras rolling for each take from every conceivable angle, so that they had a lot of material to use. And for example, we would do passing maneuvers, and they would sometimes have, not only the cameras from stationary locations, but they would have cars mounted with cameras following us through the passing maneuver, through the turn, from the back, from the front, different angles. And we had to try to stay a constant distance from the camera car, but also they wanted us to, you know, have James Hunt in front of Mario at a particular location or vice versa. Another example, standing start, of course, Andretti's on the front row at the Japanese Grand Prix, the last race of the 1976 season. Andretti has pole, James Hunt is starting second. So, and it's wet conditions. It wasn't raining that day in England where we were filming it, so they brought in a crane and sprayed water down on us. And I think you'll agree that the standing start in the movie comes out very realistically. We get the lights go out and we take off. And I was told there to stay right alongside James Hunt right up until the first turn, and then let him get ahead of me going into the first turn. So we did, I think, 2 takes that time and came off very well. It's very authentic. You know, I'm sure they did some things on the computer, but I can tell you most of it is real, and using real 1976 Formula One cars for everything except the crash scenes, really. Racing action is as real as it gets, I think. I was so impressed. In fact, joining me for the movie when we saw it in London in June was Bob Dance, who was a mechanic for Team Lotus back in the 60s, 70s, and is now with Classic Team Lotus. And he was there, you know, back in the day. And he was impressed with the authenticity of the movie. So I think audiences will as well. The movie tells a great story. The musical score is fantastic. The acting is, I think, outstanding. And the portrayal of the rivalry and the different personalities of Hunt and Lauda. You know, I think Ron Howard just did his usual exceptional job of creating a movie.